Hello.
5 minutes for peer review. Hey, Amber.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi.
Hi, Phil. I'm sorry you cut out as Amber was coming in. What were you
Okay.
saying?
Well, it says here on this paper, it says 10 minutes in small groups of 4. Each student will have a total of about 8 minutes to present, followed by 5 minutes of discussion with peers. So she's saying 10 to 13 minutes.
I am not sure. I will take a look quickly.
Yeah, that's where, and it kind of walks you through. So 10 minutes, I think 15 minutes per person. So 10 minutes for us to share, and then about 5 minutes for peers to ask questions and give feedback.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was a little confused about that, but you got it.
So it says it's recording. So I'm assuming I'll just be able to save it and then share it with her because we have to
Okay.
put it in or whatever. I don't know. Have you guys ever done that before?
No, never done it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
trying to get to my timer here.
it says it's recording, so hopefully I can figure out how to share it.
We'll figure it out. Okay, I was just waiting on Dorene. Do we score each other's?
I don't think so. I think we just
It says peer-led data session. Or do we just think this is how we did?
so we're just presenting it, I think. So there's on that thing where it says on that line instruction for leading.
This one?
So I think each of those points you talk about, and then 5 minutes peers ask questions, provide feedback, work together with people to extend understanding of data and analysis.
Okay.
And communication. So I think we just, yeah, because then after we write a brief report, so I think we're just giving feedback.
Okay.
So essentially, it's just like we're talking about our ideas and what we're analyzing, and then we just get feedback from everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're supposed to, do you see that, the document that kind of outlines what to talk about during your 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've got that posted here.
It's like if you go to the assignment.
Yeah. Instructions for leading data and session with peers.
Yeah.
Okay, like the rubric thing, or like.
I
see it now. I see.
Yeah. Sorry, I have way too many windows open. So let's see. I was just looking. Dorene did respond and say that this time worked. I don't know if has anybody talked to her.
Let me text her right now. Let me go close my door.
And I did create another meeting since I think we'll get kicked off after 40 minutes if we're still going. So I created another one that I'll share with you guys, maybe if I can.
Okay. So I text her. Hopefully she'll join us shortly.
Okay.
So are you creating that meeting right now, just in case?
I already created it for 3:40. I thought maybe I'll wait to send it till Dorene's on so she doesn't get confused with what link to hit.
Oh,
Okay.
I forgot which tab.
Phil, you said you're going to a conference this week?
Yeah, tomorrow. I just my aunt passed on last Thursday, so I've been so busy with the funeral arrangements and everything, and it's been a hectic week. So I had to get this done.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I said I need to, because then I'll make you guys late. So I thought I got to get it, and then I have a training in Albuquerque. She's a 1-day training.
Yeah.
And I love my district. They won't pay the hotel for me when my training starts at 8:00 in the morning.
How long of a drive is that for you?
It'll be a good 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I have to leave about 4:35
Yikes.
and take off, and then be there, and it'll be over by 3.
Yeah.
So
Be a long day though.
Oh, it's gonna be a long day. Yes. There she is. Yay.
Hello.
Hey, girl.
Okay. Can you hear us, Dorene? We can't hear you.
Nothing?
Oh, kinda.
A little bit, not too much though.
Yeah.
Might have to have that speaker just a little bit, Doreen.
Okay. Let me see. What about now?
Yeah.
I have
We
to talk
hear
loud
you.
now?
Very faint.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to talk loud.
All right. Who wants to go first?
We could go alphabetical order. Just kidding. My last name's
Created? Is that what we're doing? Are we sharing what we created?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're sharing our data displays.
First. I think I'm gonna move to another room though.
Okay.
Did you say she'll go first?
She's gonna, yeah, and she's gonna move to another room first.
Okay.
Okay, so I have to share my screen, right? So you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, hold on.
Do we like share screens one at a time, or do we all do it?
I think maybe whoever's presenting shares, you think? I don't know. I've never
I think so.
done
I've
it.
never done it all multiple at the same time,
Yeah.
but that's a thought though.
And we have to record, right?
So it's already recording. I set them to record the whole session.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can figure out mine. I hope I don't make you guys disappear.
They're good.
Okay, I did mine on my iStation
Mm-hmm.
data. I just gotta find it now. Right here. I have 14 students, and we have to, we assess, this is their MOY, what we call mid-year assessment. So we assess them in their phonics, awareness, alphabetic decoding, comprehension, vocabulary, and spelling. So I created a graph and I used the students' names or their initials. But for some reason, when I did it at the bottom, I don't have their initials, I just have their numbers, which I think is probably better. And it's just showing my students' growth. And I used this chart table because I thought I messed around with several different ones, and I thought this one was the easiest one that could be read, showing the areas that I wanted because there were so many. And then there was supposed to actually be an assessment piece for fluency and something else, and I don't know where my chart just went. Oh goodness. There it
Just
is.
scroll back up.
Yeah, trying to. I left the fluency piece out because there were only 2 of my students that are in that category, and it felt like when I had it in there, it was just, I don't know, it just went, my chart just went crazy. So this is what I made for them for fluency, and it's, I mean, for my class for the iStation. And I guess I didn't give it a title name, but it's for the iStation assessment MOY. So I don't know if there's anything else I need to do to it, or if you guys have any suggestions for me, feedback. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see. Go ahead and just present your everything, Doreen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what more I'm supposed to inform you about. You want me to talk about the actual data?
What do the numbers mean?
Oh, over here on the side, right here. Are you talking about
Mhm.
these?
Mhm.
Okay, the
Yes.
scores. Okay, I see what you're asking. I put right up here, like for this one student, MF, his phonemic awareness is 195. This is an actual test that they took, an assessment. And then his decoding, his alphabetic decoding was 197. So when I made the chart, it just automatically put this in here itself. I didn't put any of these numbers in. So it's the range. So the alphabetic decoding, you see how it's what color? Let's see. Let me look at my chart. I'm trying to make it bigger. Let's see. Alphabetic decoding is the orangish color one, and I don't know how come that one placed itself below the phonemic awareness, because oh, okay, I see. So where this little boy scored at 195, this is the range of the numbers. So if you look over here, he's student 1. So the orange color is the alphabetic decoding. So he scored like right in this area. I don't understand how it came out like this. But that's his range. And then his spelling was 209. So it just, this, I don't know how I got these numbers here, but it formulated itself, and I need to get better at doing this, I guess.
I think what it did is it took all the numbers for that one student and it's basically adding them all together. So it's showing all those scores together. Does that make sense? Like, so the number 209, and I can't see the ones above it, but it's putting all those together. So that's how it came up with that range.
Oh, so all these numbers right here, 209, 200, and 189, and it didn't divide them. I mean, it didn't separate them?
Well, it's separating them by the color. So you can see them separate by color, but it's putting them all together as one kind of lump sum. But you can see them, how they're different by the color.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So by using, I like the charts that come with the program better than me trying to make it like this. We don't do it like this in our school. We use what's already provided, and I can read those sets of data that are given to me better than the one I created myself, unfortunately. I don't know if there's anything that you guys can suggest that I can make it better next time.
I mean, one thing, looking at yours, it looks like you analyzed the data kind of similar to how I did, except for I just had a different like scoring system.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like yours is all summative, meaning it's adding everything up.
Uh-huh.
And on mine, I split, or well, I put the students, which are on your x-axis, which is
Uh-huh.
on the same as well, but where you have like phonetic awareness, alphabetic decoding in the A column,
Uh-huh.
that's where I listed my students, and then I had the other, your y-axis, or your phonetic awareness
Oh.
decoding,
Uh-huh.
like from A, B, C, D. So I had the students listed from like 1, 2, 3, 4, the numbered side, and then I had the categories listed on the alphabetical side, and that's how I
Uh-huh.
was able to like distinguish the different categories with each student instead of making it all summative.
Uh-huh. I wanted to also do a pie chart because I didn't really do that, but I wanted to do that with my tiers, like my tier 1, 2, and 3, just to see how that would turn out too. But I didn't get that far yet, so that's the part that I want to get done too. I want to see my tiers graphed out, and according to my overall, I have only one student who's a tier 3 in the I station, but I want to see it in a pie graph. I mean a pie chart. I want to see what that looks like too. So I want to mess around with it more.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Um,
talking about like a pie chart for each individual student, or like a pie chart overall?
overall,
Overall?
yeah, with my whole class. I want to get better at doing it, doing the charts and being able to read data better than. I mean, I just want to be better at it.
I think something too, like when since you have the 5 different categories
Uh-huh.
that they have a score for, like one idea might be that you could try one of the graphs that gives its own, for each of those categories, it would have its own kind of bar rather
Oh
than that
yeah.
you put on one bar, and then you could maybe see, it might be a easier visual to like see where they're needing support and areas where they're stronger.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I mean, just an idea. I don't know if that would help it or not, but
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah, that would work, Doreen. I can see that happening, what Amber is talking about.
Mhm.
Another suggestion you could do is, I mean, you have 5
Mhm.
different subcategories here,
Mhm.
and maybe you can make a graph for each one,
Mhm.
and then you can see where they're at and what they're
Mhm.
doing, and
Okay.
what's your goal? What
Uh-huh.
number do you want them to be at?
Okay.
And if you have, it's called a trend line. If you can make a trend line, or how many kids are below it and how many kids are above that trend line, you're
Okay.
passing. Either they're
Okay.
passing or they're not. And
Okay.
once you see that, then that might give you a better view of which kids you need to do your RTI on,
Mhm.
which kids you're going to need to bring back and say, okay, this one needs help with alphabetic coding, so I'm going to pull these 4 kids back with me. This one
Okay.
needs to work on comprehension. This one really understands comprehension, so maybe I can do a peer tutoring with one that's a little bit above the line. So that
Mhm.
will give you some, I can never say that word to save my life, but that D word.
Differentiation.
Yes, that would help you with that. I can see that with your graph, with the numbers that you brought us. And
Okay.
that looks like that's really good data that you have there.
so, and I see the student AB and the student KT that don't have anything in for phonemic awareness. Is that
That's because on the assessment that they're given, and like I said, remember I said there were 2 students that were in fluency. These
uh-huh.
students haven't tested to fluency yet.
Okay.
So the kids that have no phonemic awareness, those are the 2 kids that are further along, and so they're being tested in other components, like the they've moved out of the phonemic awareness, and they're the two that are into fluency.
Okay.
So the test is set up so that they're tested where they're at, their abilities.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why there's no scores for those two. And then I thought, should I put zeros there? But it can't be a zero because they've mastered it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I left it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that affected the probably the overall. Because let's see, that student is number, let's see. What is she?
And
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She's student 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and student 13. And see how theirs is lower.
Mm-hmm.
And so probably I could have put fluency in there. I didn't know really what I should do with it. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions.
no, I mean, I think that makes sense. I just didn't know if that meant like they were lacking in that, or but no, I think that makes sense with the description. I think like when you look at this, is it something that you feel like you can use this graph to help you determine like what to do next with the kids?
I think I like the suggestions that you guys gave me, and I'd like to probably separate them. And I think that you guys are correct in saying that that would probably give me a better idea as to where I need to help my kids with their RTI and stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is pull it apart and do it by the different concepts. So then I'll be able to probably answer that question better, Amber, after I do that.
I think, once you start pulling it apart, you'll start seeing the graph to your liking. You'll start finding out that, oh wow, this is actually pretty cool, because that's what happened to me. I got too involved in it, and I got crazy with it. But
yeah,
if you tell me to do it again, I don't know. I don't remember.
I kind of messed with it in different ways, like trying the things at the top where it had different kinds of things that it different charts and different graphs that they suggested. So I tried that. This one, to me, the others, it just like my eyes were probably going cross-eyed with them. And this one is the one, to me, it made more sense. But I like the idea of taking it apart and by the areas and seeing what they can, how it changes. So I'm going to try that.
Dorene,
yes,
I want to show you something here. You see that plus that's up there on the right side of your chart?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, and then it opened up for you already, and go to the second box.
Here?
No, on the same chart where that plus is, because it's already opened up for you.
Where it says,
or click on it, or click on it. Click on it, or again, click on it again. And then you see a second box. It says Access Titles.
Oh, yeah.
That will give you your Y-axis and your X-axis, and then you can label it however you want it.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then you can make it as big as you want, as small as you want, color it, font-wise, size-wise. You can do whatever you want with that.
Okay. See, it's not staying there, though. Okay. All right, cool.
I'm over here trying to click on it. I forgot you were sharing.
I know, I keep trying.
Okay, all right. So I'll quit it. That's all I have for you. So.
Oh, that's awesome, though. I like the way you've got it going.
Yeah, looks good. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And I'll share mine next, because what I was talking about can maybe help out Dorene a little bit.
Okay. So do I do stop sharing? Stop share?
I think so, and then
yes,
Michael can share his.
Okay, got it.
All right. So do I click share screen, right?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Is my screen sharing?
Yes.
All right. So
Okay.
I teach 8th grade social studies, and we had a little bit of a smaller scale than you. We just based it on like a scale of 1 through 4, 5.
Uh-huh.
And what we were mainly working on were Common Core standards aligned with Colorado state standards, which they basically revolve around claim, evidence, analysis, citation, and transitions.
Mm-hmm.
So the graph that I made
Mm.
was this one, and it mainly just showed where each student was at. Basically, the only thing is there were no zeros, like if they were inaccurate on their analysis or anything, then it would be at a 1. But as you can see, this was our first assessment of the year, so it was just kind of basing on what we need to grow on for the year, and it was essentially everything that we were looking at that we needed to grow on. So
Hmm.
if you,
I like that.
I do too.
this is like the rubric that I've implemented since the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the third quarter, that will be the last time that we'll assess students using this learning progression. So we'll be able to measure their growth throughout the year. We've done like a few practice units, but they're more formative than summative, like this first one was, and our last one will be a summative one as well, just to kind of measure how well and like what areas we need to work on for next year for implementing this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
I see.
shared the link with you all if you want to take a look at it yourself. But like this is the graph, or this is the graph from the initial year, and um, with Dorene's as well. Like this, I know it's a lot to look at, but this is kind of what I was talking about. Instead of stacking them on top of each other, like
Mm-hmm.
side by side, but like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if your measures were equal, meaning like they came up with the same point value or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because all mine came out to at least a value of 5, and that's what I was measuring. So then at the end of this current quarter, I'll be able to have my final analysis and be able to like measure the student growth through that.
Yeah, I like how I feel like visually it kind of shows, like, you know, especially students that are strong in certain areas, or I don't know if you'd call it strong, but maybe for beginning of the year. Was this a beginning of the year or beginning of the semester?
This was beginning of the year, yeah. And then we've been practicing it throughout. This assessment was given like midway through the first quarter, so I like gave them some direct instruction on how to present a claim, how to present evidence, how to create an analysis instead of just a summary, and then
Mm-hmm.
how to cite their sources and create transitions from quotations into their own words. And we've been working on that from midway first quarter until pretty much now. And by the midway third quarter, we'll be putting together our final unit where they can express these, and we'll see how much they grew throughout the year. But we've been having like formative assessments where I have the data, but I haven't created graphs from it.
Mm-hmm.
I like this because and I tried doing something similar to this, but I think I had like too many different components to it, and it just looked really like, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? So I changed it to the one that I chose, but I wanted it to look like this. So I
I
like that,
see.
Mike.
Yeah, like one thing that was beneficial with this is that I had a smaller class size for my
Mm-hmm.
sample. And I have another class in the afternoon that's like twice the size of this. And if I would
Mm-hmm.
put data into a chart with them, it would just look like way too much information because
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of uh, students that I have data for that are all in one table that's twice as big as this one. So.
Yeah, I like this because I think especially as you go through the year and you can assess them again on it, you'll be able to see that growth. You could compare the two graphs, I guess. Yeah, and see the areas where they grew.
I think so. I think it's easy to read too. It's simple. I like it.
And that's what we
Yeah,
were
it is.
especially with our learning progression that we created up here.
Mm-hmm.
It took us a bunch of tries to create this learning progression, but it
Mm-hmm.
essentially states everything that we kind of want the students to be able to do by the end of the year. So like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are at the 1, 2, one of them was at a level 3, I think, at like analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But currently with our formative assessments, the majority of our students are at a level 3, and
Mm-hmm.
we expect them to at least get to a level 4
Mm-hmm.
because level 5 is like exponential. So currently we're just working on getting our kids at least to a level 4, so then they're able to look at a variety of sources and be able to kind of give their own feedback instead of just a summarization of the information presented.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I like that, Michael. I like the way you have this rubric. That's something I need to start using as a rubric. And it's something that my kids need to start following. And I like your data. Go ahead, move to the left. And your data there tells me for each category, right, of
Yeah,
what you want to do. So another addition to your graphs would be how are they doing for the well, I guess it depends on your question. What was your question asking? And from that question, you'll start to find out if they're really analyzing the answer. I mean, the question. Are they really analyzing it in their writing?
yeah. So we don't really have a like definitive answer per se.
Okay,
We
per
ask an,
se.
we ask an open-ended question for them,
Okay.
and like this category, the claim category,
Mm-hmm.
they can come up with their own opinion, and with their own opinion, they have to cite evidence and analyze their evidence.
Ah.
So then I mean, they can create their own opinion on top of that instead of just being like, because I mean, a lot of historical things are very open-ended. So that's
Yes.
why we kind of left that open. We were thinking about coming up with a definitive like yes and no, and then we were like, can't really say that because there are different points of view in history. So we were like, if you state a claim, just be sure that you can back up your claim using evidence and the analysis of that.
Mm-hmm.
I see. I
So
see.
like, this one was about the Jamestown in the early struggles of Jamestown, and our final one is going to be about westward expansion and manifest destiny and how like the United States expansion westward affected the people, well, affected pretty much everybody in America, from the Mexican Americans to the Native Americans to the European Americans. And of course, there's going to be differing opinions on there. So that's why we kind of started it out as an open-ended question.
So Michael, do
Yeah.
you continue using the same rubric?
Yes, we edited it, or that's such a weird word to say. Edited it about right after the first quarter
Uh-huh.
because we realized that it didn't align with some of the assessments that we gave the kids. So like
Uh-huh.
one of our assessments, we gave them or we had them create a comic about the Mayflower Compact and the formation of government. And that really went well with like stating the claim and providing evidence, but it didn't leave much room for like citations and transitions. So we modified this after the first quarter, and it aligned well with our colonization unit and all of that other stuff that, and yeah, all the other stuff that went along with that. But yeah, so this was like the revision of our initial learning progression that we had. So like it kind of gave us a better view of what we wanted students to learn, and it gives the students a better view of what we want them to be able to grasp when they leave eighth grade.
Awesome.
So Michael, how has your data reflects onto your classroom instruction now?
So if we go to the graphs, the biggest area that we needed to work on, or that I thought that we needed to work on, was citing evidence and creating proper citations. So like I spent 2 days going through various sources. Like we would analyze a textbook for one day, and they would have to do that. We would analyze vocabulary, and they would have to cite the dictionary that they found the information on. And yeah, so there've been like mini lessons within our units, but I guess we'll see how those mini lessons went by the end of this summative thing. But I mean, they appear to have been at least building off of that through the formative assessments that we've been giving. So, and like I said, I have the rubrics graded and all of that along with that, but I haven't put it into graphs or anything. But at least almost, I would say about 90% of the kids, or 90% of my students, are now at about a level 2 on everything. And a lot of them are just getting stuck at a level 3, and they're having like a hard time, mainly with citing multiple sources. Like if they find one good source, they're very good at analyzing that and presenting that. But incorporating multiple sources has been difficulty that we've been trying to overcome the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it looks good. I like how you have the rubric on there so that we can see that too.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's all I have about mine.
So a thing popped up on the Zoom, and it said that for like a one-time offer, it's letting us go unlimited time, so we don't have to switch Zooms.
Okay, yay!
And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, well,
I know, I saw that too.
because I was like thinking we were gonna have to switch over, but I think we're good. Let's see. Phil, do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay.
The butterflies are leaving my stomach right now.
My screen share leave? Yes, it did.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
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 Let's see. So this is I chose to do Galileo, which is a an assessment that we do 3 times a year. And then we've been creating we can create assessments based off of standards using Galileo as well, that we've been doing for math and a little bit for ELA. I've started analyzing my math data, but I haven't had time to actually put as much thought into it as I have my ELA. So that's kind of the one I focused on. So on this screen over here, you can see, these are my students. I just gave them a letter of the alphabet instead of their names. And then, so beginning of the year is this column, and I color coded them like on the table. So red's well below grade level, like the intensive group. Below grade level's the yellow, and that's strategic. And then green is proficient grade level, and then the blue is advanced. And so those with BOI and MOI, those scores, those cutoff points change. But so just on the table, you can see that, you know, some of those reds were able to move to yellow or green, and some of the yellows moved to green, and one of the greens moved to advanced. So with my table over here, my graph over here, so this is the benchmark score, and then the students, and then the blue is the beginning of the year, and the orange is the middle of the year. And one of the reasons I chose to do this also is because this is like tied to my professional growth goal, blah, 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 whatever. We had to focus on Galileo.
Right.
And I just never have enough time to really like dive into this data and really look at, you know, use it to help me. So our goal was that every student should be growing at least 29 points. And that's what this column over here is, the growth. And I actually made, well, if I can get to it, another chart that's just showing the growth. And so I did actually have all of my students except for one met the at least 29 points, all the way up to some students that made like 270 points. This H student right here is a girl that is, it's her third year in the United States. She's from Bulgaria, and so she's an English language learner, and went from a level 1 up to a level 4, which is amazing. She's made really great growth. So I felt like there were a lot of celebrations in here, but I also thought when I look back at this data, you know, even though a lot of the kids made the growth they needed to, some of those kids need to be making more growth because they're still showing that they're below grade level. So my next steps, I've kind of started diving into, I can actually have it run me a report that shows the specific standards that they're not scoring well on. And so I've started going in, it's a lot, but I've started going in and looking at especially these 5 kids that were still in the red. And they did have some similarities in the standards, being, one of them was being able to compare informational text, being able to read 2 different texts about the same topic and being able to compare the information and be able to cite. So I'm seeing, you know, an area that I could probably target with them. And this student C that only scored a 16-point growth, she is autistic, which isn't an excuse or anything, but I have some pretty good support for her, some behavioral support. And we've kind of talked about having a little bit more support in the classroom, because she's one that when I'm sitting right there with her, she'll work really hard, but then the minute that I'm off working with someone else, she tends to stop working or get frustrated. So I'm hoping that maybe with a little bit more support, I can help, you know, figure out what's going on with her, because she is extremely smart. And I feel like when I was looking at some of the standards, I don't know if it was just her test taking abilities, or, you know, if it really is like a deficit in those areas, but I feel like I need to dig into her scores a little deeper as well. So yeah. Oh, and I guess I did, so this is a 3rd grade. I guess you can see that on the graph, but.
Can I see your growth chart again, Amber?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So it went from the lowest up to the highest student.
Yeah, so this one I was having a hard time with like how to show it. But I went ahead and did just over here, I put a filter in and made it so it was grouped by lowest to highest growth. And it seemed to be the easiest to look at. And so I can look over, you know, that student S made the highest growth, and then that student C, the lowest with 16 points. And then I feel like another thing too that I want to do is, and I've kind of started with some, so like, but looking at these like kids that made, 200, like 100+ point growth.
Yeah.
Looking at, what is it what groups are they in for, we have a time during the day that's called Win What I Need, and it's a full hour, and that's when we provide our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, but then all the kids are actually grouped within 3rd grade to kind of go for a whole hour of what they need, whether it's pushing them forward or, looking at specific things. And so like that level, or the student H was in a tier 3 group and just recently moved to a tier 2 group because she's been making such good growth. And this level, this S student was in a tier 2 group and recently moved to a tier 1 group. But it's interesting, some of these kids that made the most growth have been in some pretty strategic interventions. So I want to kind of dive into what those kids are getting and why they're making as good a growth as they are,
That's
I
a
like
good
it.
factor.
Oh, go ahead, Phil.
What's that?
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, since you're noticing the improvements that are happening to those kids that are getting their RTI, their additional help, another thing you can look into is how are they getting that help, which you just stated, and what's working for them, and maybe you could also, put that across the board for everybody. If they're responding to it, then I say go ahead and share it with all the kids.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay.
I like how can you go back to where you show your, that screen. I like that because it's easy to tell who's what tier they're in. I like that. The colors that you used.
Yeah.
And the way that you have them grouped, that makes, it makes it so easy just to tell where your students are at and the growth that they've made. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's definitely in the past. Last year was the first year we did Galileo, and we all were just like, ugh, Galileo, another thing to do, But
Yeah.
I am finding that it is supposedly a very close correlation with how they do on this, that compared to how well they'll supposedly do on the state assessment. So, I think that it has a lot more to offer when I was a little just more frustrated by it last year. And so being able to, having the time to dive in or use it for an assignment, might as well do something that I really want to spend time on.
That is so true.
But yeah.
Like with the student growth stuff, do you continue on with those interventions that you set in just for until the next assessment, or do you just they met their growth now, let's see what we can do without interventions? Or
so we look at quite a bit of data. We look at a lot with our DIBELS data as well to determine what groups they need to be in. So we look at Galileo and our DIBELS. And there's, it's definitely, we get together the whole team, the grade level team, and then all of our specialists, and we talk about it. And so normally if they are making good growth and it's consistent, then we'll knock them up a tier at least. But it's also something we're learning we have to really keep a close eye on, because sometimes they're getting that support, they're making growth. And then I have a student in my class that was in a tier 3 group, and then he made some really great growth, and which he showed. I'm trying to remember. He is, I think he's student, no, sorry, which one is he? He's student I think. So he made 86 points growth. He moved up to yellow, and his DIBELS, he made some good growth. So we moved him to a tier 2, and instantly he started tanking. So this week we're moving him back into a tier 3. So I think it's, what I've found is in the past we'll be like, yay, they're making growth, and we move them out of that or pull those supports. And then sometimes they weren't ready for that. So I definitely think it's something to keep an eye on.
I like that. Amber, when you guys take the beginning of the year, middle of the year test, does your scale increase each time
Yes.
for them to be benchmarked? Do you know how much it increases by?
So to like the cutoff for beginning of the year for the red to yellow is, I want to say it's 696. I don't have the numbers right in front of me.
Okay, that's fine. It's just, but it does increase though, right? From beginning of the year to middle of the year.
So, and then it's like 720 or 25.
Wow.
So it definitely increases. I don't know exactly how much. So yeah, so for end of the year, they're supposed to make another at least 29 points growth. So, you know, these kids that are still in the red, I don't know, figuring out what interventions they need to hopefully at least get up into the yellow before the end of the year, if not green. But
do you think attendance might be a factor for those reds?
One of them, I actually have really amazing attendance this year. I just kind of
you're so lucky.
Yes, yeah. But I do have one student who, and he is this Q student, and he had actually really great attendance, and then he was gone and he was one that was in a tier 3. We moved him up to a tier 2. He was making really good growth, and then after Thanksgiving he got sick, and was like he was gone between Thanksgiving and winter break. He was gone, I'm trying to remember, like 14 days or something crazy.
Wow.
And his scores,
that's crazy.
You know, they dove. And he did still make some growth on this. They took this test, the middle of the year they took right before winter break. So he didn't still make some growth, but I feel like if he hadn't been absent, he probably, because he was red in dibbles at the beginning of the year, and then he was up to where he was scoring green, and he was at grade level on his fluency and everything, and then he was sick, and within, like, once he was back, I progress monitored him, and he was in the red again. So he's definitely an attendance kid, but unfortunately there's only so much you can do with that.
That's true. It's only so much we can control.
Yeah.
Awesome. I agree with Dorene how your colors, it's at a glance, it really tells you a lot, you know, on what you're looking at and where your kids were at the beginning of the year and now where they are at the middle of the year. So there's definitely some teaching going on there, Amber.
Yeah.
And you know, and as an administrator, that's what they're looking at. And they're saying, you know, wow, look how many reds you have, and now look how many reds you've only gotten. Let's try to make them all, you know, green and blues. Mm-hmm. So I like that. I like that coloration that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I would be happy to show you guys how to do that too. It's pretty easy. Do you know how to add the filters?
Yes.
Yeah. So all I did there. Oh. Sorry, I don't know, whatever. I could show you sometime though if you want. But once I added the filter, then I did this section, you know, just did it from smallest to largest. And then if I know my cutoff points, you know, I can just, I can highlight all those and turn them red. And so it probably only took me like 5 minutes to do those colors. But it's a little easier to see.
Okay.
Awesome.
I like it.
Thanks.
I like your growth too, how it shows from the lowest kid up to the highest.
Yeah, thank you. I took some time playing around with that to hopefully make it easy, but yeah. All right.
Excellent.
You ready, Phil? Oh, let's see if I can. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I hope so.
So do I just hit stop share, I guess? Yeah. I
think so, yes. Okay. Let me try and stay within my, where am I at? Share screen. Okay. I can't see my tabs. Move away. It won't move away. I think this is it. Yes, that's it. Okay. I am working on we do CFAs with Central Consolidated School District, and I'm in charge of doing the math CFA for my 5th grade class. So each quarter, we do one every 2 weeks, and we have to respond back to our administrator. And it seems like every month she's adding something new to it or adding something else to it. And we're like, oh my God, we might as well be dietitians instead of teachers. So this is what my test looks like that I started doing my data on. And I looked at my questions, I looked at my test format, and I thought, this is really interesting. What can I get out of it? So then I decided, what am I looking for in my data? Then I started to grab my data and I started collecting them. So these are my students. They're not real names. I just made up names on these. My students here are listed. I got 25 kids. And the one that's underlined are my IEP kids with not much severity. These other darker ones are my IEP kids that have been verified as MR just recently. So that explains their scores on how they did. So that's how I started looking at it. But the others, out of this, I have only 5 students that are not ELL, and the rest are ELL out of my whole class. So I started putting down the chart how they did, and this is for each question. How did they do for each question? So I started writing it down saying, okay, this Philip did 89 for question 1, for question 2, that was his score, for question 3, so on and so forth. And so he averaged out a 93. Then I said, how did each student do for each question? How did my class average that out? So then I decided to do an average for each question. Question 1, everybody did 71%. Question 2, 70, and all the way across. And then that got me thinking. I thought, well, how did they do on each question? So that was really interesting to me. And then I started this going on here. I started working on this. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I started working on this, and I started getting my mind, and I thought, you know what? I need to find out what kids know and what they don't know. So I did a plus and delta of each student, and I decided to say, okay, my test consists of what skills? And these are the skills that I said that they already should know, and these are the skills that they don't know. And as you look at Philip, he did every one, and the one that really questioned me was the reading ability. Was that, how is that a factor in my test? Can they read their question? Do they understand what they're supposed to do? So I started looking at their SRI score, and that's a comprehension score that we use monthly, and a star reading score. And I noticed that since Philip is on grade level, I understood why he did very well on the assessment. And Stacy here, who is an IEP kid, she's barely reading at 3rd grade, a little above 3rd grade. And I understood why, she didn't score well, and she still needs help in those areas. So I started tracking that, and I thought, oh my gosh, look at how much more I can get out of this. And I found out that, like Loretta down here, she can do it. She was just careless. That's the only thing I can come up with on her. She just, I think, worked too fast, too quick, and wasn't prepared to look into her answers and double check. And she just went through it very quickly. So several of my students were very careless. And the part that I found out about my assessments was that, I can't see, but can you guys see this one? You guys' pictures are right here. I found out that I should not have true or false, or just choose one or the other type of questions, because it didn't give me much. Mm-hmm. And like my IEP kid here, he got it right. He guessed at it, he gets the right one, either A or B. Same here with this one. So I thought, wow, how in the world did that work? So when I go back to my data and I'm looking at Stacy here, question 4, she got it perfect. She got the right answer. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I look at Jimmy here, did the same thing. And he just so happened to get the right one again on question 9. And I'm like, wow, you know, that's not working for me because that doesn't help me at all. As I started going through each question, I decided to graph it. So I went crazy, you can see. I said, okay, for my class, for question 1, this is how my students scored. I wanted to do a trend line to show which kids are right on the trend line, below the trend line, or above the trend line. So with this trend line, I decided to pull these kids into my RTI. And since this is a numerical expression to solve and evaluate, I decided to also use this to help me out. Do they know the multiplication facts? Is it math vocabulary that they're having trouble with? Do they not know the order of operations? Are they reading level too low for them to understand? So these are kind of my factors of why they scored what they have here. So I did that for each question, each one, all the way to question 10. Oh, supposed to be 10 right here. Then I decided to do an average graph. This is per question 1. Question 1, I did a line graph and their average was 71 all the way down. Then I converted this graph into a pie chart. Then I said question 1 was 71% and it rotates around from the right around to the left. And that started giving me a really good idea. And I said, oh, look at that. My kids actually did very well with 80%. So overall, I did very well according to my test that they took. Well, maybe the reason why they did so well is because we've been studying it for a whole month. That could be one reason why. Then I started playing around and I decided to do this type of chart, just like you, Amber, where it went from one lowest number up to the highest, but mine went from the highest down to the lowest. And this is my mark of where all my students should be at up here. So this tells me that like Abby here, she's doing well. So is Susie, 94, 94, 89, 86. So here are my proficient up to Loretta, who's probably my near proficient child. So most of these guys are very well off. And these guys need some help. RTI kids down here, 65, 60s. Maybe I could do all of them as my RTI instruction to have these guys peer tutor these ones. These guys down here is like I'd explained, they're MR kids, but I still have to include them in, and they're progressing, but at a very slow rate. That's what I'm getting off of them with that part. And it's really interesting how that's happening. So I decided to start reflecting. I was probably a step ahead here. And I said, okay, here's my data. Why is it? Why is my students doing this? So I just said, I have a trend line. I'm looking at my average kids, and I want to work with the students which are above it, slightly above or below it, or below the line. So that would tell me what difficulties they're having, or if they mastered the standard that I was teaching. So it just got me going, and I just got so involved with the graphing that I was like, oh my gosh, there could be so much I could get out of this. Then I decided to look at my true and false question here. That's what I came up with, my true and false. And then I said, wow, that didn't help me at all. So the kids would say, yes, I know that question. No, I have no idea. Or I think I will guess, and if I could guess the right answer. And that, so that told me that in the future, I will stay away from true and false because it really didn't help me at all. If they're good guessers, they can choose the right one and it'll make it sound like they know their material. So that's what I got off of my data and my graphing. If I go back here to my data, then I got an average for each kid. And I can also, so here's my question. Oh no, not this one. I can go back here and such question as this one. What is the formula for, they could choose any one of these and that doesn't really tell me much. The answer is C, but I mean, they could choose B, they could choose A, but that would tell me they know it or they don't. And if they guess C right and they don't know it, yeah, I can't really say if it's true. And this is another one. It could be this or that. So that's when I decided to keep the true and false out of the way as much as I could. And also this one. And I decided to stay with more open-ended questions with how to score my students. But other than that, that's what I've got so far. Is there anything you guys might have questions on or suggestions?
First off, wow.
I know.
With all your graphs, I feel like
Guys, I've been working on this since last Sunday.
I feel like it gives you a lot of information. One question I had was, so for each question, they get a percent. So do you have like some sort of a scoring rubric for each question?
Yes, I do. I think I close it back. I can open it back up. No. So they have out of possible points, so many that they can get. And each point is put into as a whole sum. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Did I just miss it? I think I just missed it. Week 1, right here. So here it goes. The answer is 75. And that one's just a simple, they know it or they don't. And this is how I found it if they knew their multiplication, if they knew their division, because they got to show their work to me. And if they know how to, add or subtract, and if they followed the rules of order of operation. And then here is 1 point if they put the correct answer for W and they show the order of operation with the correct answer of 44. So they got to show me their work again, and that tells me where they're having trouble as they work on it step by step. Here's another one by points. If they can identify the length, the width, and the height with numbers, show the understanding of the process to find the volume of a cube, and the answer is correct according to the calculations, and the answer is labeled correctly. Example, 50 feet cube. So they're supposed to create their own cube, and they have to label their length, width, and height. And if they can calculate it with what they can, and that's what I was looking at. Are they able to work on it on their own, step by step? So here's another one, same thing, except this one's they do their own, but they have to have an answer that's not greater than 50. They can have a 32 volume, a 25 volume, as long as they can figure out the 3 numbers. When they multiply it, it will equal that, and it has to be less than 50. So it's a lot of critical thinking. They got to do their own thinking, and here's just my points. I just give them 4 points for it. And you only get 1 point if they do this, they get 1 point if they do that, they get 3 points if they do this. So I got to see how their work comes out. So I still got to see how their work is. That's where I got my collection
Okay.
of how they did in each area. So like her, she just drew a box and mini boxes, and they were just square shapes, not cubes.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with this one. He just completely ignored him. He didn't even attempt to do nothing. And so did Brooke. They just decided it's too hard for me. I don't want to do it, and they just drew pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So that really got me to thinking, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. All right. So it was a very big learning curve for me. But I found out that this true and false stuff is not working for me in math.
So Phil, on the interim assessments, do they put
Uh-huh.
true and false on there?
Let me see.
On the
Let me go back.
district interims?
No. Yes, they did. I think they did that to one way
Uh-huh.
back at the beginning, and then that was it.
What about when you guys give your CFAs, do you do paper pencil first and then they put it on the computer, or do they just do it on the computer?
We did paper pencil at first, and now we're converting it into the computer. But we found out that we can't put certain questions on the computer because they can't draw.
Mm-hmm.
They can't draw out their diagram. They can't draw out their stuff. And we have to just use that to paper and pencil. They can do click and drag and drop. They
Yeah.
can do those, but they can't actually draw out a form, a picture and show, this is a cube. Here's my link. They can't do that. So
So
that's what.
how is the district handling that?
All
Are
Judy.
they doing the same thing?
Nope. I have to redo my whole question and make it into a drag and drop.
For the intern?
Or I have to change it back to an open-ended question.
But the intern comes from, I'm not talking about CFA.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The intern. CFAA, we're making those ourselves, but what about intern?
The interim,
Yeah.
you know what? They don't have any. They don't have any drawing. They're all multiple choice or open-ended question like this that you have to put your answer in a box.
Oh, okay.
There's no drawing.
Okay.
There's no, there's just all open-ended question.
Oh, okay.
So they do have that box where you can do multiplication, fractions, mixed numbers, but I don't know how to get that on into my CFA, into my assessment.
Yeah.
And Judy doesn't know much about that, but Marjo is probably the one to ask, and she's supposed to come and help us with that.
I like your work, Phil. It's nice.
Oh, I went crazy on this.
It's nice, though.
Yeah.
I like it.
I just need to go back through and see what I did. I just saw so many videos.
So you can mentor me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, only if I can remember.
It's nice.
I think I can. Oh, yes. Here's my trend.
I like it.
It's fun. I'm finding out it's fun, but it's very time consuming. And you have to like what you do with this. That's and time I really don't have. I wish I had time to do all this. I could just quit my job and be a dietitian, but I don't think I want to. It's just too much. Too much. I'd rather be with the kids, make me laugh, make me mad, make me sad, make me happy. I'd rather do that. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything else?
Oh, I think it's great. Looks pretty useful for you.
Yeah.
And your reflection points were very well too, especially with like the true false. Like during my undergrad studies, I was always told to exclude true false unless if you like have them change whatever part is false or have them identify whatever part is true. So with that reflection, that was really well put on as well.
I think if you were going to do a true or false, I would have them prove why it's true or why it's false.
Oh, good one.
Yeah,
I like that.
Let them prove their answer. I think that would be something for them to process too. I think that'd be good.
Awesome. That's a good one. I like that. Makes them critically think about what they need to put down and how they're going to address it.
Yeah. It's nice. Good job.
Yay. Like I said, it took me a long time. Lots of YouTube videos here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. And then I wonder if I can just turn it in, because I think I need to make it into a YouTube video or something and then share it, is what it said, with her.
Okay.
But I can share the video because I think maybe since I'm the owner, I think I am the one that will have access to the recording. Maybe. I don't know. But I can just do that and then email you guys all the links so we can just all turn it in. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because I think for today's thing, we have to submit the video is all. All right.
Thank you, Amber.
Cool. Thank you.
Hopefully I can
I appreciate it, Amber.
All right. You guys have a good weekend or rest of your week.
Thank you.
Well,
You too.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.